Hi, I'm Adam McNichol and welcome to the Match Committee. It's round 7 and we have all the teams for this weekend. We'll take you through those and we'll look at a key question for each match. I'm joined once again by Peter Ryan and for the first time this year by Cal Toomey.
Good to be here, Adam.
Very good, boys. Now let's get straight into it. The big game, Carlton Collingwood, Friday night at the MCG. This should be an absolute cracker. Marley Williams is in for Collingwood. That's the most interesting selection news to come out of this game. The Pies have lost Fasolo and Tuvey to injuries. Andrew Carazzo is out of the Carlton side. Andrew Carazzo is into the Carlton side and Chris Yarran is out with a hamstring. Now, this is going to be an absolute cracker, as we've said, and the spotlight all week has been on Dale Thomas, the man who's gone from Collingwood to Carlton. Pete, how wary should the Pies be of a Daisy explosion?
Very, very wary. You know my views on Daisy. He's a big game player and Collingwood supporters know it better than most. He can just turn a game in an instant. Great player. And he is, on Friday night, setting the stage.
Pete, come on. There's a number of players that I think Nathan Buckley would be more worried about tonight ahead of Daisy. What about Mark Murphy?
Didn't you see him in the last 10 minutes last week?
I did. It was a great smother. It was a
great smother. Nah, he was brilliant in the last 10 minutes.
There's a smother. It was a great smother to come at a great time, but I still think he's about 6 weeks away from actually being at his best.
You might be right. I tell you the interesting question. Who do you think will pick up Daisy? Because that's what Collingwood supporters we wanted to see.
Look, I don't know who it would be. Then maybe they let him run free.
McAfee
goes with Mark Murphy, I think. I think McAfee goes with...
Right.
Yeah, well, he's not the number one guy at the moment, so stick with Murphy.
Thomas could explode in this game. Explosion from Thomas.
Lovely work, boys. Good bit of niggle first up. Well done. Now to the Saturday afternoon game at the MCG. Hawthorn versus St Kilda. Jordan Lewis playing his 200th game for the Hawks. Ryan Schoenmakers is back for his first game since round 4 last season. Billy Hartung to debut. The Saints have lost Templeton, Hickey and Dunstan, some good youngsters, but they've got Blake Acres to make his debut. Now, we've got Jared Roughead in the spotlight here. His form has been a bit indifferent, it's fair to say. And, Cal, as we go inside 50, the big question is Ruffy missing Buddy?
Oh, look, Adam, I wouldn't have thought so. Look at the results last year. He showed that he can play without Buddy. Now, look, Hawthorn are playing this, they're nominating this game as a bring a friend to the game day. Look, maybe Buddy comes down. Maybe he comes down to the day and just shows...
What, he brings Buddy down for the game to watch him play?
Maybe that's what he needs.
Fantastic.
Maybe that's what he needs to get a kick. Look, you look at last week's performances, all his play was down forward, deep forward. Maybe it's time for Ruffy to get up in the middle, get back in the midfield.
Ruffy's not missing Buddy. I think you're dead right. He's got enough buddies down there now. He's got Cyril. He's got Schoenmakers back, who might actually play forward. He's got Hale, he's got Popolo, he's got Gunston.
Jack Gunston's
Big Jack Gunston. Could have won the Norm Smith medal last year. I think Adam McNichol might have even been voting on that last year. Great player. Roughhead's not missing, Buddy. 13 goals, going well.
I think Jack Gunston's holding his own as well, isn't he? Right at the top of the Coleman medal leaderboard, so right there. I think they're doing OK without the Budwell.
Fair call, boys. Hawks shouldn't have too many problems with that one. Now, the other Saturday afternoon game, Greater Western Sydney versus Port Adelaide in Canberra. Angus Monfries is back for the Power. That's a great result for them. Missed a couple with a hammy. The Giants have omitted the number 1 pick, Tom Boyd, but they've brought the number 2 pick, Josh Kelly, back into their team. Interesting game, this, between two young sides. The big question we've decided on as we go inside 50... is, Pete, who would you rather have, the Giants' Callan Ward or the Power, Travis Boak?
It is a tough question, actually, Adam. When I thought about this, I was thinking of Michael Voss, Nathan Buckley, when they were really head-to-head in the 2002-2003 grand final. In a couple of years, it'll be Callan Ward and Travis Boak.
Who do you take?
Travis Boak. Just wait for you to get to the point, mate. Travis Boak's in the top 20 for contested possessions, leading a club that's probably the fashionable club of the month, and doing a great job.
Will you be like fashion and change in a couple of years when Callan Ward's leading the club of the competition in a couple of years? I think that's what you're going to be doing, because Callan Ward is the captain that I'd like to play under. There's nothing against Travis Boak. He's a gun as well. But if you're in the trenches, I'll be like standing next to Callan Ward. The players love him up there. He's 24. He's played 100 games.
Boak.
I tell you what, he'd be good at the Bulldogs at the moment too.
They do love Travis Boak. He stuck with them in the tough times. They know that he's had the chance to go home. He stayed with them. They just do anything. Brick wall for Travis Boak.
Let's face it, two pretty good players, aren't they?
Correct.
And on to the Saturday twilight game. Adelaide versus Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval. This one could be a tad one-sided, it's fair to say. Now, both teams are unchanged, which is rather interesting, but that means there's no Taylor Walker in the Adelaide team. He'll have to spend another week in the Sandful. Ben Rutten is an emergency for the Crows. Now, we've decided to focus on Bernie Vince, a player who transferred from Adelaide to Melbourne in the off-season. Cal, do you think the D's would be happy with Bernie Vince's form so far?
Absolutely, they'd be happy. He's averaging 23 disposals. I'm sure he's given a bit of spark around the club too, which is what they needed. One of the reasons they did get him. But I tell you what, I reckon Brenton Sanderson and the Crows would be pretty happy with what they got in return for Bernie. Pick 23, Matt Crouch, averaging almost more possessions than Bernie, 25 a game. Not bad for a first-year player.
Great player, Matt Crouch. He's already been nominated for the Rising Star, but I think it's one of those win-win-win-win-win trades, whatever they are. But Colin Sylvia went to Fremantle. They got pick 23 in exchange, so they basically thought they got Vince for Sylvia, and then Adelaide got back into the draft and got Crouch. I tell you what, I don't know if Adelaide supporters though will be too happy with Bernie Vince. He's compared Jack Watts to Tex Walker, and Jack Watts is not exactly burning the house down at the moment.
He's not quite at Tex's level, is he?
Not quite the intimidating factor that Walker might be when he comes back.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. If you're talking about win-win-win, I'm not sure what Freo and Colin Sylvia are winning at the moment.
No, unchanged side.
Fair call, boys. OK, to the Saturday night games. And this one, Essendon versus the Bulldogs, an intriguing game at Etihad Stadium. Now, Goddard's back for the Bombers. That's a massive result for them. Bell Chambers has only been named as an emergency, which means Jakey Carlisle keeps his spot. Dale Morris is back for the Dogs after shaking off an ankle problem. Daniel Siracusa among 4 players dropped, as is Lin Jong, who was actually pretty good last week, tagging Patrick Dangerfield. But anyway, he's out of the team. Now, Pete, the big question, as we go inside 50, is the loser of this game out of finals contention?
Where are we at? Round 7? If the Bulldogs lose, I don't think they can make the finals.
Pete, were they ever in contention? Let's face it. They had a good run on last year. They did quite well, and they beat a couple of teams early.
I'm sorry, the Bulldogs were in contention well and truly. They had a barnstorming finish to last year. They beat Port Adelaide last year. I think people forget that. Although they beat St Kilda and they beat Melbourne and beat Greater Western Sydney as well.
I think they're a little bit flattered by who they beat last year. For the Bombers, it's an important game. They don't want to go too far. But in saying that, even if they do drop that game, they've got the Lions, they've got the Swans, Richmond, GWS, Melbourne in the next few weeks. So it's a good time for them to draw for the Bombers and Mark Thompson's side. This is their time where they have to strike. They need to get the points on the board here. It's a big game for the Bombers. What about Stu Cremiri? How's he going to be received?
Stu Cremiri will be getting more booze than Daisy Thompson. Daisy Thomas. Cremiri's been going okay for the Bulldogs, though. He'll fight back and answer them.
Big game.
Don't worry about that. OK. Brisbane versus the Sydney Swans at the Gabba, the other Saturday night game. And it's Reece Shaw's 200th. Congratulations to him. Lance Franklin is out of the Swans team with a knee injury. Tippett is not back, but Sam Reid is. Pierce Handley is out of the Lions side, which is a big blow for them. Now, Adam Goodes came back last week and he looked pretty good. But Cal, as we go inside 50, is it fair to say Goodesy's on a farewell tour?
I reckon it's going to be a 2-year farewell tour, Adam, because I think he might actually be able to get another year out of himself. 2015, I reckon he's going to play into next year, mainly because he missed so much footy last year, he's missed the start of this year. I think he's going to be fresh enough to get another season out of himself.
I think, I hope you're right, but I reckon if you're a Brisbane person, get to the Gabba on the weekend, because it could be Adam Goodes' last game there, and we know he's been a champion, dual Brownlow medalist. Funnily enough, since Longmire took over, he's had a 68% winning record when Goodes has been in the team. Goodes' career record's 57%, so he's really lifted under the twilight of his career. And he looked like just a fresh-faced filly running up and down the boundary, ready to go on, excited.
There's a few fillies in that forward line, though, isn't there? There's Tippett, there's Roughhead, there's Sam Reid. So it's going to be...
Colts
probably the better way to put it. But there's going to be some interesting decisions at the end of the year. Will they need him?
Correct.
Phillies in the forward line.
Just rolled off the tongue.
OK. Now, to what I think is the match of the round. North Melbourne versus Gold Coast. The early game on Sunday at Etihad Stadium. Harley Bennell is back in for the Suns. He had 24 disposals and kicked 3 goals in the NEAFL last week. And Scotty Thompson returns to the North team after missing a game from suspension. This shapes as a beauty. There might not be a big crowd, but Pete, is this the biggest game in the Suns' history to date?
Well, they've had, obviously their opener a few years back was the big game when they beat Richmond on the Gold Coast, but this is the biggest game. They're in the hunt, they're at 4-2. If they go 5-2, you make the finals if you go 5-2.
Yeah, and they should get there from there, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Second half of the year, lots of games up there at the Gold Coast at Metricon, they made their own. What I want to see is them beat a really good team. They haven't done that yet this year. Richmond, Brisbane Lions, Melbourne, Greater Western Sydney, no disrespect to them, but they're not exactly challenging for the top 4, those sides this season. North are 5th, 1st, 6th. really big game here at Etihad. To do it away from home as well would show that they're maturing as a group.
No doubt about that. And McKenna's put the cards on the table. He said we're ready to fly. So North Melbourne is the perfect sort of side for them to take on because we a realistic chance of beating them. Put them above them on the ladder. They're both on 4 and 2, 5th and 6. Great game.
Great chance to win the flag by 2015, by the way, aren't they? If they make the finals this year, if they make, the chairman said it, John Withers said it.
Buzzer.
Probably time for the buzzer.
Cal, wow, Now that should be a cracking game. Geelong, Richmond. Not sure about this one. But anyway, big Dawson Simpson back into the Geelong team along with Stephen Motlop, who's going to play his first game for the season. Andrew Mackie is still not in. The Tigers, big boost there. Deledio and Rance back into their starting 22. But Richmond supporters must just cringe at the thought of this fixture, to be perfectly honest, given the records between these two sides in recent years. Cal, is there any point in Richmond supporters going to this game?
There is, Adam. There is. No, there is. Listen, because they've got 2 of their best 6 players back. Damien Hardwick was very, very clear that if they get a few of these good players back, they might be in better of a chance. They've got their best running carry player. We might actually see them take a bounce down the wing this week with Deledio back. No dare last week. No boldness in their play.
Yeah,
bring a little bit of that back. What's
right.
the team that finished 5th last year? Where is it?
I think they're sitting somewhere down the bottom of the ladder with very little hope of playing finals at this particular time. If they lose to Geelong, it'll be their 100th loss to Geelong, so perhaps that's a chance to rock up to the G.
Probably not something you put on the banner.
It's your last chance before Mother's Day to get out to the footy on a Sunday. I'm not sure there's a lot of reasons to go, but you can always hope. You're a dreamer as a footy supporter, and as a Richmond supporter you have to be. So get there.
I want to see some run from Sean Grigg, from Brandon Ellis, from Reece Conker. I would have liked to see a debut from Ben Leonard too. I thought he was on the cusp, and that would have brought a few supporters through the gates.
Yeah, imagine.
Never mind, Tiger fans, get along, get behind them. OK, the Western Derby, West Coast versus Fremantle. The last game of the round. Aaron Sandilands' 200th game, and Michael Barlow's back for the Dockers. It seems a bit early from his knee injury, or certainly earlier than we thought he was coming back. Hayden Ballantyne also back from suspension. Darren Glass and Shannon Hearn back into the West Coast team. The Western Derbies are always cracking contests. Pete, our big question, who's going to win?
Well, I think Fremantle will win, actually. I think that they've obviously been disappointing, 3 and 3, but they're getting plenty of inside 50s, which is what they wanted to do. They're averaging over 50 inside 50s a game. That's where the good teams come from.
What did you say last week that would suggest they can bounce back?
Well, they just didn't use the ball properly going forward. Pavlich had too much to do, and they paired off, and they basically had the ball running for Pearce and Hill. Have 1 and 2 in the inside 50s in the competition, but they hit up targets. Pretty easy to defend when you're North Melbourne.
It's all about Nick-Nat for me. I think this is the week that we might actually see him take a few marks, run around the ground, play the sort of footy that we want to see him playing. I think the Eagles just have to kick straight in the last quarter. That'd be a big help. I think in the last month they've kicked 6 goals, 16 behinds in the last 4 rounds of last quarters. So that's extraordinary inaccuracy.
They should be getting there and shaving down the posts and making them into twigs. I think that cost them last week, didn't it?
Beautiful work, boys. Now, each week we like to have a look at the upcoming AFL record, and this week we've got the league's sponsorship deal with Star Wars on the cover. Can you believe that? And there's a great feature inside by Alex Malcolm on the history of the Western Derby, which we were just speaking about before. Now, boys, thanks for joining me this weekend. What are you looking forward to from this round of footy, Pete?
Well, after seeing that record cover, I'm looking forward to getting the record, to be honest.
But I'm Stormtroopers.
I'm heading to Carlton, Collingwood to see Daisy Thomas, and I won't tell my son to boo him, but I'll say, I appreciate Daisy.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm looking forward, Adam, to seeing Beat Test Billy play. So Billy Hartsung, the Beat Test champ from last year's draft combine, ran a 16.6. He's going to run rings around the Saints on Saturday.
Lovely. There's a reason for Hawks fans to go to the footy for sure. Now, finally, on May 10, Breast Cancer Network Australia and the AFL community will come together for a very special event, Field of Women 2014, which will be held before the Round 8 clash between Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs. 15,000 participants will stand in pink ponchos and 125 in blue to represent the growing number of Australians who will be diagnosed with breast cancer in 2014. Tickets are available at fieldofwomen.org.au. Thanks for joining us on the Match Committee. We'll catch you next week.